The wind howled across the white plains of Varel, a frozen planet where two dying suns hung weakly in the sky. Snow fell in endless waves, covering everything in silence and cold. In the middle of that white storm sat a small alien girl, her thin arms wrapped around a tiny glowing creature. Her name was Ari-Len. She was only 10 cycles old, still young for her kind. Her skin shimmered faintly blue under the pale light, and her silver eyes were full of tears. In her arms, the small creature, a pet she called Luma, lay still, its once bright glow flickering weakly like a candle about to die. "Please, Luma," Ari-Len whispered, her voice trembling in the freezing air. "Please stay with me. Don't go." Luma made a faint sound, a soft chime, but the light from its body dimmed again. Its breathing slowed. Ari-Len pressed her face against its soft fur, feeling its warmth fade. Her hands were numb, but she didn't care. She would not let go. Not yet. The wind cut through her thin coat, biting her skin. Her long tendrils of hair, usually bright silver, were frozen stiff with frost. Behind her, the small dome of her family's shelter glowed faintly under the snow, but she didn't want to go inside. She had brought Luma out here because she didn't want her parents to see it die. Her father had told her the truth 2 nights ago. "There's no medicine for it, Ari-Len. The cold sickness. It takes them fast. Nothing we can do." But she refused to believe that. Luma had been her friend since she was born. They had played together under the blue lights of the sky. Luma would float around her head, singing soft hums that made her laugh. She couldn't let her go like this, not alone, not in silence. The storm grew stronger. The sky turned darker, as if the suns had given up their fight against the cold. Ari-Len's small form trembled, and she buried her face in Luma's glowing body, whispering to her. "When I found you, you were just a tiny light in the grass. You weren't supposed to live that night either. Remember? You were freezing then too, and I held you and you got better. But this time the light didn't return." Luma's glow faded to almost nothing. Ari-Len closed her eyes. "Please," she whispered again, "don't leave me too." For a moment all was still. The only sound was the wind. The only warmth came from her tears on her cold skin. She thought she heard her mother calling from the shelter, but her voice was lost in the storm. She looked down at Luma again. The creature's tiny eyes were closed, no sound. No glow, nothing. Ari-Len froze. Her breath caught. "No," she whispered. "No, please." She shook the small body gently. "Wake up, you can't, please, Luma." Her voice broke. The last bit of warmth left her hands. She felt her heart twist in her chest. It wasn't just the cold. It was something deeper, something that hurt in a place she couldn't name. For the first time, she let herself cry loudly, the sound lost in the endless storm. Then, she felt it, a sound, a crunch of snow. At first, she thought it was her father coming to find her. But when she turned her head, she saw something strange through the wall of white. A dark shape moving slowly through the blizzard, tall, heavy, walking on 2 legs. Her breath stopped. The people of Varel never walked alone in a storm. No one would risk it, it was suicide. But this figure didn't stop. Step by step it came closer, each movement strong and steady despite the raging wind. Ari-Len wiped her tears with her sleeve, trying to see clearly. The figure had light on its shoulder, a faint yellow glow that moved like a heartbeat. As it came nearer, she saw the outline of strange armor, metal shining under the ice. Then she saw a face, partly hidden by a cracked visor. It wasn't like any face she had ever seen. No blue skin, no silver eyes. Just pale, rough skin with frost covering a short beard and bleeding lips. Ari-Len gasped. Every story she'd ever heard as a child rushed into her mind. Stories told by her teachers. Stories about the humans, monsters from the old wars, beings who came from the stars to fight, to burn, to destroy. No one had seen one in generations. They were supposed to be gone forever, but one was walking toward her now, through the storm, straight toward her and the dying light in her arms. Her body wanted to run. Every instinct screamed danger, but something in the way the figure moved made her stay still. The stranger fell to one knee, the snow crunching under heavy boots. Through the fog of his cracked helmet, she heard a rough voice speak, soft, almost kind. "She's dying, isn't she?" Ari-Len stared at him, too shocked to answer. The human looked down at Luma, then back at her. His eyes were tired, but not cruel. "Let me see her," he said. Ari-Len held Luma tighter. You can't help. No one can." The human gave a faint smile. "Maybe I can. and as lightning flashed faintly behind the clouds. The strange man reached into his pack and pulled out a small glowing device, one that hummed with life. Arilyn blinked through her tears. For the first time that night, her fear mixed with something else. Hope. The human stood there, his breath misting in the icy wind. His armor was cracked and covered in frost, and his movements were slow, as if every step cost him strength. Snow clung to his shoulders, and faint blue lights blinked weakly on his chest plate. Arilyn stared at him in silence. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had heard tales of humans all her life, stories told by the elders to scare children into obedience. Humans, they said, are war-born creatures. They bring fire, not mercy. Run if you see one. But this one wasn't holding a weapon. He was kneeling in the snow, hands open, his eyes soft. Through the cracked glass of his visor, she saw his face. Pale skin, tired eyes, and a faint smile that didn't match the stories. He looked at the small, glowing creature in her arms. She's fading fast, he said quietly, his voice rough but gentle. Her body's shutting down. Arilyn held Luma tighter, shaking her head. You can't help. You don't know her kind. The man tilted his head. Maybe not, he said. But I know what dying looks like. He reached into his side pack with slow hands, careful not to frighten her. From it he pulled out a small silver device, a narrow tube with soft blue light inside. The glow reflected in Arilyn's eyes as she watched him. What is that? She asked. He looked at the device for a moment, then back at her. Something humans made to fix broken things, he said. We call it biogel. It heals wounds, fights disease. Works on most life forms we've met. Maybe it can work on her too. Arilyn frowned. You don't even know what she is. The man gave a short breath of laughter. No, I don't, but I can try. His voice carried no command, no threat. Just quiet kindness. Arilyn hesitated. Every rule she had been taught screamed inside her head. Don't trust outsiders. Don't touch alien tools. Yet she looked down at Luma's tiny face, pale, still, her light fading. The creature's chest barely rose and fell now. Please, the man said, his tone soft. If we wait, she'll be gone. Arilyn's lips trembled. You'll hurt her. He shook his head. I'll be careful. I promise. Something about that word, promise, made her believe him. She slowly held out Luma's small body, her hands shaking. The man's gloved fingers brushed hers as he took the creature gently. His touch was warm, not cold as she expected. He pressed the tip of the injector near Luma's side. The device hummed and released a soft pulse of blue light. Arilyn gasped as the glow flowed into Luma's body. For a moment, nothing happened. The storm howled louder around them, snow swirling like ghosts. Then, Luma's body twitched. The dim light inside her flickered, then steadied. Arilyn's eyes widened. She's glowing. The man smiled faintly. Good, that means it's working. Luma gave a weak chime, her small eyes fluttering open. Arilyn's tears froze on her cheeks, but now they were tears of joy. She hugged the little creature against her chest, whispering thanks. When she looked up to thank the stranger, he was on his knees again. His hands were shaking and his head drooped. Hey, she said quickly. Are you hurt? He gave a small, tired laugh. Yeah, you could say that. He collapsed into the snow. Arilyn gasped and crawled closer. His armor was cracked open along his side, leaking dark red blood that steamed against the cold. You're bleeding, she cried. It's fine, he said faintly. Just lost a little too much? You helped me, she said, her voice breaking. I can help you too. He looked up at her through half-closed eyes. You don't even know me. You saved Luma, she said firmly. That's enough. The man tried to smile again, but his strength was gone. You sound like her, he whispered. Who? Arilyn asked. He didn't answer. His eyes closed and his breathing slowed. Arilyn panicked. She looked at his wound. It was deep and bleeding fast. His strange armor flashed red lights, beeping in warning. She didn't understand any of it. She pressed her small hands against the wound, trying to stop the blood. Don't die, she whispered desperately. Please don't die like Luma. The human didn't move. The storm blew harder, covering them both in a blanket of snow. Arilyn's tears dripped onto his cracked visor. She could see her reflection in the glass, small, scared, and lost. But then through the frost she saw his chest rise slowly. He was still alive. I have to take you inside, she said. You'll freeze out here. With all her strength she tried to pull him toward her home. He was heavy, so heavy that every step felt impossible, but she didn't stop. Luma floated beside her now, her glow stronger, lighting the path through the snow. "Come on," Arilyn whispered, pulling the human's arm over her shoulder. "You saved her. Now it's my turn." It took her forever to reach the door of the shelter. When she finally dragged him inside, the warmth of the small heater touched his frozen skin. Her mother gasped, "Arilyn, what have you done?" "That's a human." Arilyn didn't answer. She dropped to her knees beside him, her small hands covered in his blood. "He saved Luma, Mama. I have to save him." Her father shouted from behind, "He'll bring danger to us all." But Arilyn only looked at the man's pale face and whispered, "He's not danger. He's hope." Outside, the storm screamed across the plains, but inside that little home, something new had begun. Something forbidden, yet alive. The child of Varel had just saved the first human her world had seen in 100 years, and nothing would ever be the same again. The storm raged on outside, its roar shaking the walls of the small dome home, but inside silence filled the air. The strange human lay on the floor, pale and unmoving, his broken armor sparking faintly. Arilyn sat beside him, her small hands pressed over the bandage she had made from her blanket. Her heart thudded with fear. He was alive, but barely. Every few breaths his chest lifted weakly, and she could hear a faint wheezing sound. Her parents stood a few steps away, arguing in low, frightened voices. "He can't stay here," her father said sharply. "You know what the patrol will do if they find out." "He's dying," Arilyn said softly. "He's human." Her mother hissed, glancing nervously toward the window. "We're not allowed to help their kind. You know the law, Arilyn." Arilyn looked at Luma, glowing faintly near the heater. "The law didn't save Luma," she whispered. "He did." Her mother froze. The truth of those words hung heavy in the air. Finally, she sighed. "Only for tonight," she said. "At dawn he must be gone." Arilyn nodded, though she didn't really mean it. She had no intention of letting him die. Hours passed. The storm began to fade, and the sound of wind softened. Arilyn sat close to the human, watching his face. He looked older than her father, but something about him seemed peaceful even in pain. After a while, his eyes flickered open. He blinked slowly, confused at the ceiling above him. Then his gaze fell on her. "You dragged me in here?" he asked, voice rough and cracked. Arilyn nodded quickly. "You were dying outside." He gave a weak smile. "Guess I was," she frowned. "Why were you out there?" "No one survives a storm like that." The man didn't answer right away. He stared at the small flame of the heater as if it reminded him of something far away. Finally he said, "I crashed." "Crashed?" she echoed. "My ship. It went down near the ridge 3 days ago." He coughed hard, gripping his side. "I was the medic on a rescue vessel. We were supposed to help a colony that sent out a distress signal. Then the storm hit before we could land." Arilyn listened, eyes wide. "Were there others with you?" He shook his head slowly. "Not anymore." For a moment she saw something deep in his eyes, a kind of sorrow that didn't need words. He took a shaky breath. "My name's Elias, Commander Elias Ward, Human Frontier Corps. At least what's left of it." "Elias," she repeated carefully. "I'm Arilyn." He smiled faintly. "Pretty name." Luma floated closer, humming softly. Elias's eyes widened in wonder. "She's beautiful," he whispered. Arilyn smiled for the first time that night. "She almost died." "Almost," he said. "But she didn't." He reached out slowly, his hand trembling, and the small creature landed gently on his palm. Its light reflected in his eyes. "Biogel worked," he said, almost in disbelief. "Never thought it would help another species." Arilyn tilted her head. "Why do you carry that medicine?" Elias looked at the glowing gel pack beside him. "Because I've seen too much dying," he said quietly. "Out there, between the stars, no one comes to help us. So humans learn to help each other. And anyone else we meet," Arilyn frowned. "But the stories say humans only destroy." He gave a small laugh. "Maybe we did once. But some of us chose another path. I used to be a soldier. Then I got tired of killing. So I became a healer instead." His words made her chest feel strange, like something inside her was changing. "Why help me?" she asked. "You didn't know me. You didn't know Luma." Elias leaned his head back, closing his eyes. "Because once, someone helped me when they didn't have to. I owe the universe that kindness." The room fell quiet. Only the sound of the heater hummed between them. As night turned to pale dawn, Elias tried to sit up, wincing. Arilyn rushed to help him, steadying his shoulder. "Easy," she said. "You're still weak," he chuckled. "You sound like a medic," she smiled proudly. "Maybe I learned from you." Her father appeared at the doorway, his face dark with worry. "The storm's clearing. The patrol will scan this area soon. He has to go." Elias nodded. "He's right. If they find me, it'll put you all in danger." "But you can't even walk," Arilyn cried. "I'll manage," he said, forcing a smile. "Humans are stubborn like that." He stood slowly and painfully. Each movement made his face tighten, but he didn't stop. He reached for his broken helmet and placed it under his arm. Before he left, he knelt down to Arilyn's height. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For saving me," she shook her head. "You saved Luma first," he smiled. "Then we're even." But as he turned toward the door, his knees buckled. Arilyn caught him just in time. His blood left faint drops on the floor. "You're not leaving," she said firmly. "Not like this." Elias looked at her, and for the first time he didn't argue. He was too weak to fight her kindness. The wind outside had calmed, but far away. The faint hum of patrol engines echoed in the sky. Arilyn glanced at the window, then back at the human she refused to let die. "He came from the storm," she whispered, "and maybe the storm isn't done with him yet." The morning light over Varel was dull and cold, stretching across the frozen plains like a dying flame. Inside the small dome house, Arilyn sat near the heater, her eyes fixed on the wounded human who slept on the floor. His name, Elias Ward, echoed softly in her mind. He had risked his life for a creature he didn't know. A creature from another world. A creature he could have walked past and ignored. But he didn't, and now because of that choice he was dying. Arilyn's small hands trembled as she replaced the wet bandages on his side. The blood had slowed, but the wound was deep. His skin was cold, his breath shallow. His armor blinked faint red lights, and faint beeps echoed every few seconds like a heartbeat fading away. Her parents whispered behind her. "We can't hide him much longer," her father said. "The Galactic Patrol will find out." "They always scan after a storm," her mother added, her voice worried. "If they detect human tech in our home, they'll take us all for questioning." Arilyn didn't turn around. She kept cleaning the wound, whispering under her breath, "He saved Luma. I don't care what they do. I'm not letting him die." Her father's voice hardened. "You're too young to understand. Helping him breaks the law. The humans destroyed half the colonies before the peace treaties. Do you think they'll forgive us if they find out we sheltered one?" Arilyn finally looked up, her silver eyes fierce. "Maybe he's not like them. Maybe he's different." Her father sighed deeply and walked away. But her mother stayed a little longer, her face soft with sadness. "Sometimes doing the right thing isn't safe, Arilyn," she said quietly. "Be careful with your heart." Arilyn didn't answer. She just looked back at the man lying there and whispered, "I already made my choice." Hours passed. The storm outside faded completely. Sunlight spilled weakly through the frost-covered window. Elias stirred at last, groaning softly. His eyes opened and he blinked at the ceiling. "You're still here," he murmured. Arilyn smiled faintly. "You didn't give me a choice. You humans are very heavy." He chuckled, a weak sound. "Sorry about that." Then his face turned serious. "You shouldn't have helped me." "Why not?" "Because now you're in danger," he said, struggling to sit up. "If your people find me here, they'll punish you. Maybe worse." Arilyn folded her arms stubbornly. "I don't care. You saved Luma." He looked at her for a long time, then sighed. "You remind me of someone," he said softly. "Who?" He smiled faintly. "My daughter." Arilyn's eyes widened. "You have a daughter?" "I did," he said quietly. "Back on Earth, she died years ago. A sickness took her and I couldn't save her. I became a medic after that, so I'd never fail anyone again." The air grew still. Arilyn felt her chest tighten. She understood that kind of pain, the helpless kind. She looked down at Luma, who was now floating nearby, glowing softly like a small lantern. Then saving her was like saving her again, Arilyn said. Elias nodded slowly, a faint smile touching his lips. "Yeah, maybe it was." Suddenly a loud hum shook the air. The floor trembled. Arilyn ran to the window and froze. A silver ship was descending beyond the hills, sleek, cold, and marked with the Galactic Patrol emblem. "They're here," her mother whispered in fear. Elias tried to stand, but his body was weak. They must have picked up my signal. I need to go now. No, Arilyn said, grabbing his arm. You can't even walk. If they find me here, your whole family will suffer. He looked around desperately. Is there a place to hide? Her mother pointed toward the back room. The cellar. It's small, but it's sealed. Arilyn helped him limp toward it. Each step was a struggle. His breath came in sharp gasps and sweat froze on his forehead. Once inside, she shut the hatch and whispered, "Stay quiet." Elias caught her wrist gently. "If they ask, tell them I forced you to help me." She shook her head fiercely. "No, I won't lie." He looked at her with a soft sadness. "Then you're braver than most adults I've met." Before she could answer, footsteps echoed outside. Heavy boots. Metallic voices. "House scan complete," said a mechanical voice. "Unregistered signal detected." "Show yourselves." Arilyn's father stepped forward. "We are peaceful. No outsiders here." The door burst open. 3 armored patrol soldiers entered holding scanners. One of them frowned at the readings. "Human biosign detected," he said. "Where is it?" Arilyn's heart raced. She could hear Elias breathing faintly beneath the floor. The soldier turned toward her. "Child, step aside." Her hand shook. Her mother cried out, "Please, she's just scared," but Arilyn stood still. "You don't need to search. He's not your enemy." The soldiers froze. Her father whispered, "Arilyn, no." But she didn't stop. "He saved my pet's life. He's not a monster." "You're wrong about humans." The lead soldier raised his weapon. "Helping a human is treason." Arilyn's voice trembled but didn't break. "Then I guess I'm guilty." Before he could step closer, a blinding light filled the room. Luma had floated up, glowing brighter than ever before. The soldiers shielded their eyes as the tiny creature released a powerful wave of light that spread through the air like fire. Elias's voice echoed faintly from below. "Luma, what are you doing?" Arilyn reached out her hand toward the glow. "She's protecting us." The soldiers stumbled back as their scanners went haywire. The light filled every corner of the house, warm, alive, and full of something ancient and pure. When the brightness faded, the soldiers were gone. Only silence remained. Arilyn knelt on the floor, her heart pounding. She looked toward the cellar door. From below came a weak voice. "You made your choice, didn't you?" She smiled through her tears. "Yes," she whispered. "And I'd make it again." The air inside the small dome still shimmered faintly with the light that had saved them. Arilyn's family stood frozen in silence, their faces pale with disbelief. The Galactic Patrol soldiers who had been there seconds ago were gone, erased by the strange wave of light that had burst from Luma's tiny body. Arilyn held the glowing creature close, her heartbeat racing. Luma's light was no longer weak or pale. It burned brighter, warm and golden, almost alive in a new way. Her mother whispered, What just happened?" Arilyn shook her head slowly. "I don't know, but I think she protected us." Her father backed away from the glowing creature, eyes wide with fear. "That's not natural," he said. "That's human tech influence. That's corruption." "It's not," Arilyn shouted. "She's just stronger now. She saved us all." Before her parents could argue again, a weak sound came from beneath the floor. A cough, then another. "Elias!" She gasped and ran to the cellar hatch. She pulled it open and climbed down. The air below was cold and stale. Elias lay against the wall, pale and shaking. His armor lights flickered dimly, and blood had dried across his side. Yet when he saw her, he smiled faintly. "You're still here?" he whispered. "Of course," Arilyn said quickly, kneeling beside him. "They came, but Luma? She did something." "The soldiers are gone," Elias's brow furrowed. "Gone? How?" She glowed, brighter than ever before. The whole house filled with light, and then they were just gone. Elias looked at her pet, who hovered near his shoulder now, humming softly. His voice grew quiet. "She didn't just glow, Arilyn. She shielded you, maybe even disintegrated the threat. Whatever energy she holds, it's not from this planet anymore." Arilyn frowned. "What do you mean?" He reached for his pack and pulled out a cracked scanner. "When I used the biogel on her, I didn't just heal her. The gel merged with her life force. It changed her. She's part human tech now." Her eyes widened. "So she's both?" "Maybe," Elias said. "Half miracle, half accident." He tried to stand, but his legs buckled. Arilyn caught him again, her small arms barely enough to steady him. "You're still hurt," she said. "You need real care." Elias chuckled weakly. Real care doesn't exist for humans on this planet. She bit her lip. Then I'll take you to the city. Someone there must help, he shook his head. The patrol will have scanners everywhere now. They'll be searching for the energy signature that wiped out their team. You can't risk it. I don't care, she shouted. I'm not watching you die, Elias. The sound of her voice filled the small cellar full of defiance and fire. Elias looked at her, this small alien girl who refused to give up, and saw something he hadn't seen in years. Hope. He smiled faintly. You remind me of my daughter again, he said softly. By the next dawn, the storm had passed completely. The world outside was still and white, a silence too calm to be trusted. Elias could barely walk, so Arilyn built a sled from metal scraps and old solar panels. With her parents' reluctant help, she wrapped him in blankets and strapped his bag beside him. Her mother hugged her tightly before they left. If anyone asks, you were never here. Promise me. I promise, Arilyn whispered, though her voice trembled. Her father said nothing. He just placed his large hand on her shoulder and nodded once. It was his silent way of saying, be brave. Then she set off, pulling the sled through the glittering snow with Luma floating ahead like a tiny sun to guide the way. The cold bit her skin. The horizon stretched forever, but she didn't stop. She followed the trail of smoke rising in the distance, the wreck of the human ship. Elias lay weakly on the sled, his eyes half closed. You shouldn't be doing this, he murmured. You said humans never stop helping, she answered. So I'm being human, he laughed softly. You might be better at it than we ever were. By the time they reached the crash site, the sun was low again. The remains of Elias's ship were buried under ice and metal shards. Strange blue fire still burned faintly from broken engines. Arilyn helped him sit up. He touched the metal surface with a shaking hand. Home, sweet home, he muttered. She looked around. Can you fix it? He smiled sadly. Not anymore. But maybe. I can send a signal. He dragged himself toward the cockpit, connecting what was left of the comms device. The screen flickered to life with static. If I can reach the orbiting relay, maybe someone will hear. Luma floated beside him, glowing gently. The soft hum of her light mixed with the static, and suddenly the screen steadied. A faint human voice came through. Frontier Corps Distress Channel, identify... Elias's eyes widened. It's them. They heard me. He pressed the button. This is Commander Elias Ward. Crash site Gamma 9 on Varel. Civilian contact present. Need immediate evac. Copy that, the voice replied. Hold position. Extraction team en route. Arilyn's heart lifted, then sank as Elias slumped forward, his strength gone. Elias! She cried, shaking him. He opened his eyes weakly. Hey, don't cry, he whispered. Looks like we both made it. She held his hand tightly, her tears falling onto his glove. You're going home, he smiled faintly. Not without you. Luma floated between them, glowing brighter, her light spreading warmth through the frozen wreck. For a moment it felt like the storm had truly ended. Then, far above, a ship broke through the clouds, its engines roaring like thunder. Arilyn looked up in awe as light from the human vessel washed over the snow. She turned to Elias and whispered, They came for you. He smiled softly. No, he said, eyes closing. They came for us. The human ship descended like a silver bird through the clouds, its bright thrusters melting the snow below. The hum of its engines filled the frozen air, echoing across the plains of Varel. Arilyn shielded her eyes as the light grew too bright. Luma hovered beside her, glowing in rhythm with the ship's pulse as if their energies spoke the same language. The ship landed softly, snow swirling around it. The back hatch opened with a hiss, releasing warm air that smelled faintly of metal and oil. 3 humans stepped out. 2 soldiers in clean armor and 1 woman wearing a long white coat with a medical symbol across her chest. Arilyn felt her breath catch. For the first time, she was seeing more of Elias's kind, real humans, not just one lost in the storm. The woman ran forward, kneeling beside Elias. Commander Ward, she said quickly, her voice firm but worried. We thought you were gone. Elias forced a weak smile. Not yet, Doctor. Help. He nodded toward Arilyn. The woman looked at the small alien girl beside him, her silver eyes wide and filled with fear and wonder. The doctor's gaze softened. You helped him? Arilyn nodded. He saved Luma, so I saved him. The doctor smiled faintly. Then you've done something no one on this planet has done in 100 years. Before Arilyn could ask what she meant, a deep roar filled the sky, a sound she recognized instantly. The Galactic Patrol. Far above, dark ships broke through the clouds, their black armor shining like mirrors of death. Dozens of them. The rescue team froze as warning sirens blared from their own vessel. Multiple ships inbound, one soldier shouted. Not friendly. Elias tried to push himself up, pain flashing across his face. They must have tracked the comm signal. They're coming for me. The doctor turned to him. We can't outrun them with your condition. Elias grabbed her wrist weakly. Then we hold them off. You get the kid out of here. No! Arilyn cried. They'll kill you. He looked at her, his tired eyes full of warmth. They already think I'm dead, but they can't know about you. Or Luma. The human soldiers rushed to the ship's controls, preparing defense shields. Arilyn stood frozen, the wind tearing at her coat as the dark patrol ships descended closer. Her heart pounded. She remembered the patrol soldiers who had come to her home, how they called her a traitor, how they threatened her family. Now there were dozens more. Elias, she said, voice trembling. They'll destroy everything. He took a slow breath. Not if we give them a reason to stop. Moments later, the first patrol ship landed. From it stepped Captain Varen, his armor polished, his face sharp and cold. He walked toward them through the snow, his soldiers following in perfect formation. The symbol of the Galactic Law glowed on his chest. Commander Ward, he said, his voice like ice. By the Galactic Treaty, all humans are forbidden from entering Varelian territory. You have violated that law. Elias leaned against the sled, his voice hoarse but steady. I didn't come here by choice. Baron's eyes narrowed. Perhaps not. But this child, he said, pointing at Arilyn, sheltered you. That's a crime punishable by exile. Arilyn's breath caught. Her hands clenched at her sides. He wasn't a threat, she shouted. He saved a life. Silence, Varen snapped. The law doesn't care about your feelings. The human doctor stepped forward. Captain, please. This man was on a rescue mission. His ship crashed. He harmed no one. Varen glared at her. And yet you stand beside him. Another human breaking rules. You think your kind can ignore our laws? Elias coughed hard, then lifted his head. Laws mean nothing if they punish compassion. The captain's expression hardened. Compassion destroyed the last peace between our races. Maybe, Elias said. But hatred destroyed everything else. For a moment silence fell. Only the wind whispered through the snow. Then Luma floated upward between them, glowing brighter than ever. Her light pulsed faster and faster, spreading warmth through the air. What is that creature? One of the soldiers shouted, shielding his eyes. Arilyn stepped forward, tears in her eyes. She's what happens when we stop hating. She's part of both of us now, human and Varelian. The light intensified. The patrol scanners went wild. Elias looked up at her, awe and pride in his gaze. She's right, he said softly. You can't destroy what's already won. The captain raised his arm, ready to fire. That thing violates every biological law. Before he could finish, Luma released a wave of energy so strong it knocked everyone back. The snow lifted like mist and the world filled with white light. When the light faded, no one moved for several seconds. Elias was still breathing, his eyes open. The patrol soldiers were on their knees, their weapons disabled. Even Captain Varen's armor had shut down, lights dead. Arilyn stood in the center of it all, Luma hovering above her shoulder, glowing like a new sun. The captain looked up slowly, awe replacing anger. What is she? Elias answered weakly. She's proof that we don't have to stay enemies. Varen stared at him, then at Arilyn, then at the sky. Finally, he lowered his head. Leave this world, he said quietly. Before others come. Elias nodded once. You have my word. The humans helped him back onto the ship. Arilyn followed to the ramp, her eyes full of both fear and hope. Will you be okay? She asked. Elias smiled faintly. I will now. Because of you. He reached into his jacket and handed her a small silver device, the same one that once saved Luma. If you ever need help, he said softly, press this. No matter how far I am, I'll come. The engines roared, snow spiraling into the air. Arilyn watched as the ship lifted off, the stormlight reflecting off its hull. As it disappeared into the clouds, Luma floated beside her, humming softly. Goodbye, Elias, Arilyn whispered. May the stars be warm where you go,